Today we're talking about the solar eclipse that happens on June 10th. It's at 19 degrees of Gemini, and we're going to have predictions for all signs. Welcome everyone! Today we are talking about the solar eclipse, the biggest astrological event we've had this year so far, and well, if you don't count that square between Saturn and Uranus, which was a pretty big deal, we're going to be having that again too. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to do a brief overview and then we're going to get into predictions for each sign. There's going to be timestamps in the description box. And by the way, if you need a copy of your chart, there's also information about getting a copy of your chart in the description box, so I hope you'll check that out. Just so everybody is clear, I am doing tropical astrology and normally I use the Placidus house system, but I, of course, for predictions need to use whole sign. So that means if you're following along and you know your chart, then you want to make some mental adjustments. Now, also, you want to, of course, listen for your sun sign, but if you know your rising sign, also listen to that because there's going to be some really good details for you, and you'll want to combine those two sets of predictions to tell you more detail about what's happening. I want to welcome everyone who's joining us today, especially our new subscribers. Welcome. I'm so happy that you've joined our little family and that it's growing. It's so gratifying. And I also want to put a shout out to those of you who are leaving the most wonderful and kind comments out there. I really appreciate it. These videos do take a long time to make, and I have a really busy schedule because, as you know, I write books. I write 2 weekly columns and 4 monthly columns. Most of these appear on astrology.com, horoscope.com, and I think there may still be one showing up on sunsigns.com, also Conscious Community Magazine. So currently I'm working on my annual Chinese astrology book, which is going to be Chinese Astrology 2022, Year of the Water Tiger. That will be out in a few months. So anyway, I enjoy doing the videos, but your positive comments help so much, and so I just wanted to say thank you. So this is a solar eclipse happening on June 10th at 19 degrees of Gemini, and a solar eclipse is where the universe is helping us make a change. Now, if we have not been moving in a direction, or if this is a change that we didn't want to have happen, I should say, then the universe kind of insists and changes happen. A solar eclipse is much more external than a lunar eclipse, the one we had 2 weeks ago. And so that means that these are the things that happen to us rather than some sort of internal change happening. Now, that said, when you are moving towards the change, then you already know what the eclipse is going to bring. You already are leaning into it. And so it's the difference between being hit by a wave and having a surfboard and riding the wave. So it's really a good idea about a week before the eclipse, or even 2 weeks for some people, if you're very sensitive, to start to ask yourself, what needs to change in my life? What have I been holding back? Where do I feel like the energy's kind of brewing? And as you figure that out and lean into that change, then the eclipse can just pick you up and carry you to a wonderful destination, which is great. Now, all that said, if you do get hit by the wave, then still take heart, because going out 2 or 3 months, you are going to find that whatever the change was, it's still going to be something that you're quite happy with. You're pleased that the change happened, and maybe you didn't like the way it happened, but that you know that the change was needed. Now, the eclipse happens on a particular day, as we said, June 10th, but the effects of the eclipse could happen a few days before or even unfold over weeks after. So it can be, that you make a decision to move, but you don't actually move on that day. In fact, moving on the eclipse is not that great because the energy on that day can be really disruptive. You may be completely aware of the changes you're going through, and so the eclipse is unfolding, but people around you may be quite shocked about the changes going on in their lives, and so they may be kind of stumbling through and inadvertently, interrupt your life path. Now, for eclipses, I give a 5-degree orb, and you guys know I'm very strict about my orbs. It sounds so strange, but this means that we are looking at degrees from 14 to 24, and that means that if you're born on the 3rd day of the month or 4th day of the month, thereabouts, depending on how big the month is, to about the 14th day of the month, then your sun sign is being hit by this eclipse. And so therefore, there are actual changes going to happen in your life. Now, it's also possible that this eclipse is going to hit your moon, your rising, or any of the other planets. And so you still could be affected. And if you're not aware of that, either consult an astrologer or look at your chart and you're looking for the degrees number to be between 14 and 24. So, and then you get hit. Now, I do use the outer planets, and that would be Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, but these are generational planets, so a hit to those are not as significant. It is more that we are looking for the inner planets, and that would be the 2 luminaries, Sun and Moon, and then the planets between Mercury and Saturn. And so those are the planets that are really going to make an effect in your life. You can also look at the effects of the eclipse by the house it hits and its mirror house. So when you look at the chart, you can find where the eclipse falls in your chart using the signs on the outer side, or the outer part of the wheel, and then you can place the eclipse in your chart. If you have any trouble doing this, of course, you can contact me or any astrologer, and we can help you place the eclipse in your chart. Now, you want to look at that house, but also the opposing house, of that mirror house. That axis can tell you what area of life this is going to fall in. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, because I don't have your chart in front of me. We are going to be talking about areas of life that the eclipse could fall in and how that could affect you. I should have mentioned before, when I was talking about orbs and aspects, that the aspects that I'm most concerned about are conjunction, square, and opposition. Yes, there is some effect, of course, if the eclipse is making a trine, or if it's making a sextile, and certainly if it's making more difficult aspects like a semi-sextile or an inconjunct. But those are going to be something that is, it's not that it's even more peripheral, but it may be that you don't have a surfboard, but you have like a catamaran, and you're just able to ride this wave so much easier than having that conjunction, square, or opposition. So those aspects can be especially difficult. The conjunction meaning that it's right here, you have to deal with it. The opposition can mean that it is something that someone else is telling you to do, or that it's happening to your partner, and so therefore there's a ripple effect. And the square is something like you're being T-boned here, you're being hit from the side, so it's more unexpected. But again, I want to point out that eclipses happen on a fairly regular basis, so it's not necessary for us to be nervous about this. These eclipses happen at least twice a year. Sometimes it is a set of 2, sometimes there is a set of 3, and so you are really used to eclipse happening. And the second thing is that the eclipses do bring necessary change, and one that we recognize when we're a few months out. When we look back, we say, oh, thank you, universe, for making that change. But at the time, it can feel quite uncomfortable. So I just want to point out a couple of other things in this chart. And one, of course, Jupiter is in Pisces, and that's giving us all an opportunity to do a little more escaping than usual. And so if you're not feeling so present in your life, if you find that you are doing more of the things that you do to escape the everyday. You want to shift that energy more towards the beneficial side of this Pisces energy, which would be meditation, spirituality, living the magical life where you are, interacting with nature and animals and, really making good food and enjoying the spring weather and all of that. For this eclipse chart, Mars is at 29 degrees of Cancer, and this is a critical degree. And so Mars is our planet of action. It's not usually so happy in the sign of Cancer because Cancer is loving and nurturing. And so we have taken a martial planet, a planet of anger and war, and put it with love and nurturing. And what we get is kind of a patriotism or a desire to defend the family, and which can be a really good thing in most cases. In some cases it can get a little extreme. So the difficulty about the 29 is being that it's the last degree of the sign means that there is a desire to really hold on. Cancer is the sign of the crab, and it has those really big pinchers, and which we see in the glyph itself. And so this is that maybe something needs to be released, but you are holding on to that thing. And so the fact that the eclipse chart has the Mars at 29 means that for this entire eclipse period, we are doing this energy. So it's not just on the day of the eclipse, but for weeks or even months after, we need to be very cognizant that there's something we need to let go of. And so we will be talking about that. And last but certainly not least is we are going to get the second of the three Saturn-Uranus squares. This is going to happen on June 14th. And I did do a video on this square, which I will link in the description box. But just briefly, this is about taking Saturn's structure and Saturn's interest in tradition and basically torpedoing it. And so Uranus is the planet of sudden change or to dismantle something. And so we are dismantling something to rebuild it better. And this takes a lot of perseverance and determination. And so you can always remember this square because the first time that it formed, on the exact day, the NASA's Mars rover named Perseverance landed on Mars. And so remember, this is the perseverance aspect. It is about having something that you thought was together, it is now in pieces, and now you need to rebuild it. However, you can rebuild it now better because of this Uranus energy of innovation and trying new things. Okay, Aries natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your third house, and so we are looking at the third house and that mirror house, the ninth house. And so this is very much about communication, and that is, is the information that you're consuming, is it accurate? Is it helpful? Is the talk that you're doing inside your own head also helpful, or could that be in a much more positive vein? This could indicate that it is necessary for you to communicate with somebody. This could be that you have a contract, or that there is some sort of negotiation you need to do with someone, or perhaps you just need to say something to someone. They're parking on your lawn or something, and you say, that's enough. You have to stop doing this. So this is about some sort of verbal confrontation. It's possible that there is some stuff going on about education, maybe for your kids, because this is usually compulsory education. Although, in that mirror house, we do have the upper education. And then also this is about your vehicle. And so there could be something going on where maybe you need to go to DMV and get your license redone, or, maybe it is that you are looking for a new vehicle, which By the way, don't buy the vehicle on the day of the eclipse, and Mercury's retrograde anyway, so you don't really want to buy a vehicle now anyway. And speaking of that, my friend Tammy Magaro and I are working on a big set of books on Mercury, and so there's going to be more information about that soon, but there is a ton about Mercury retrograde, the do's and don'ts and all of that. But anyway, I digress. So this is also about short distance travel. And so if you are planning a trip at this time, you want to check things, check your vehicle, make sure you have everything, because that's where the disruption can be. You know, the Jupiter that is kind of expanding that desire to escape is in your house of escapes. And so you may really be feeling like you don't want to do anything that's right now that other people are asking you to do. And so from a spiritual standpoint, though, this really does increase your intuition and increases your ability to contact guides or angels. And so you might be looking at finding your way through prayer or meditation or lighting candles or things like that. You could really make a connection to a higher power at this time. So that's a better way to use it than endlessly scrolling. When we look at the Mars, it is suggesting that you let go of something related to home or family. And this could be even letting go of some person in your family who is just taking a different path, and maybe you have tried to protect this person and guide them back to a path that is better for them. But at this point, with the Mars at 29, it is just saying it's time to let go. And so you allow them their own journey, and then you go forward yourself. With the Mars at 29, you might also be letting go of the idea that you're staying in this house. And so it doesn't mean that you're moving right away. But it does mean that you might be thinking about getting the house ready for a move, or looking at, you know, what you can change in the house if you wanted to stay. When we look at your relationships, you're not doing an aspect between Mars and Venus, and so the timing is off at this time. And because the Mars is at a critical degree, you may not be ready to allow the timing to be off. And so that's what I'm suggesting this time, is that you just say, you know what, if things are going to happen or unfold the way they are going to. Basically, this feels a little bit out of your hands. There's not much you can do to speed things up or slow things down. And so it would be better to just focus on other areas of your life. When we look at home and family, you do have both the Venus and the Mars in that house. And so there is both this sense of happiness, but also, as we were talking about before, that the Mars may be suggesting that you are to let go and let somebody live their life the way they're choosing, even though it may not be the best choice for them. And so we have kind of this dual nature going on. You're also pulling energy from that eclipse in the third house, so it might be that you're having a discussion with this person to say, that's it, I'm done, I'm letting you do whatever you want. And it's possible sometimes when you say that the person goes, oh no, I do want you to run my life. But it is better to let go at this point and just allow them, as I said, their own journey. When we look at your house of money, of course, Uranus is there, and it's going to be there for years. So you are doing every possible derivation of Uranus going through your house of money. And so this time I want to talk to you about looking for different ways to store value. And that is that perhaps you have in the past looked at the idea of collectibles or precious metals or things like that, and maybe those need a look again. And I'm not by any means suggesting that you put a ton of money into gold or silver or palladium or any of those things. But if those things have been on your mind, maybe it's time to look at your resources and see if some of your portfolio should go into a different form of financial storage. And so storage being Taurus and Uranus being different. And so that's just what I wanted to give you this time about that very long transit. Otherwise, your house of money is pulling money from that Venus in the 4th house, which does say home and family and real estate. And so there may be some opportunity for you in real estate, or perhaps you're thinking about getting a real estate license or going in with family members to fix up a house and flip it or something like that. So money can come from there. Of course, this is home in general, and so that might mean that you are working at home or that the support from your family is helping you make more money. When we look at money derived from your business or from a passive income source, there is no aspect between Venus and Pluto going on, and we already mentioned there's no aspect between Venus and Mars, and so the timing is off. This means you're making about the same as you've done before and not making much more this time. This is a perfect time, though, with the eclipse going on, to work on issues you have around paperwork or the process of getting paperwork done. If there's regulations you need to follow or licensing you need to do or certification you need to get, that's what you should be focusing on, as well as, maybe taking a video course on whatever it is that you want to learn, getting, up on your tech skills or your communication skills, or getting a different type of driver's license. Any of these types of things would help. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, despite the fact that we still have Saturn there, and you're going to have Saturn there for a while, which does mean that whatever you're doing when it comes to your career, you are going to have to push a little bit. You are doing the sextile between Venus and Uranus, so you do have an opportunity. But when we combine an opportunity with something you have to push, it does mean that you have to schedule the time with the boss and tell them, I've done this and this and this, and perhaps that's why you're doing all the stuff about communication, is learning how to ask for a raise. There's a ton of great videos on YouTube about that. So do a little research, get your wording right, and then approach the boss because you have an opportunity to make more money this time. Now, when it comes to risky investments, you are pulling energy from the sun, which is part of the eclipse, and it's in your house of information, which to me says that some of the information that you have either may be incorrect or is being updated as we speak, and now will give you a different picture of this investment. So do not avoid looking at additional information. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I have my fill of information. I just want to move forward and take action. Aries is a very action-oriented sign, but in this case, we are getting like a little red alert, beep, beep, that says, look at the information. Additionally, Venus is not making an aspect to that sun, which says that, the timing is off, and so you're not wanting to push forward on a major investment right now, and it's Mercury retrograde, so you probably weren't planning to do that anyway. All right, Taurus natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your house of money and its mirror house resources. And so this is where the change is coming. You may be recognizing that you need more in your life, or that the sources you are getting resources from seem to be drying up or just changing in general. And this is possibly that you're getting a long-term notice, that you're seeing something down the road, or it is something that is happening quite immediately. And so if that is the case, there is going to be opportunities that the universe will open up for you. This is also where you're saying to yourself, perhaps, that I want more control over my resources. I want more control over my spending or how I'm investing or things like that. So this is all about, money, security, trust, support, and it is about how you are changing your financial picture, because this says that it's time to change that financial picture, and you have the capabilities of changing your financial picture. And you're Taurus, and so that rules finances, and so this is that lesson for you, that you've been working on, and here comes some big answer that you've been looking for. So I want you to feel that this is actually going to be a good thing, even though, as we've talked about before, it may feel a little bumpy. And I know, Taurus, you don't like bumpy, but it is something where you're going to look back on this and say, I'm happy that that change happened because now I'm in a stronger position, I'm more financially secure, I know what I'm doing. When we look at that Jupiter, which is that planet that is in the sign of Pisces, which is wanting to escape, it's in your house of friendships and technology. And so it may be that you're going to the same friends and saying the same things over and over. You know, I'm stuck here, I'm not happy there. And they're not giving any different answers, you know, because they're the same people over and over again. And so you may want to branch out with that or talk to them about different things. And of course, because the 11th house rules technology, that is also escaping into all of our fun little devices that are engineered to help us escape. And so recognize if you are getting lost in some sort of fantasy world via some video game or something like that, to pull yourself out of it, because this is time to pay attention because you have huge money opportunities happening right now. When we look at that Mars and what you need to let go of, it's in the house of communication. And so this says that you either need to stop thinking some sort of way, or you need to let some words out. And that is, maybe you're sitting on your novel and you haven't published it, or you have an opinion to do or a test to take and you need to take that test. But mostly this can be that there is a loop happening in your head and you need to end that. And you start ending it by saying, okay, I'm not going to think that anymore. And when it pops up again, you say, you know what, I'm not going to think that anymore. And you keep doing that until it stops, and it will. Or there's another technique where every time you think of it, you stop everything and you write down. You write down, I thought about this again, and you put that in your pocket. And then the next time it happens, you write it down. I thought about this again, you know, maybe timestamp it. At the end of the day, you count up the number of pieces of paper. And every time the number of pieces of paper is less each day, then you celebrate and say, see, now I'm thinking about this less and less. Plus, the annoyance of having to write it down will cause you to say, I'm not going to think about that. I don't want to have to write it down. So this really works. When it comes to relationships, you are not doing an aspect between Venus and Pluto or Venus and Mars, and so the timing is off. And what this generally means is it's not the focus this time. You have so much going on in your house of money that is where, you know, that's where your attention is most beneficial. Now, if you are looking for love and all of that, you do have that Venus that is going on in your house of communication. So, you know, have wonderful communications with the person. But if they are doing the eclipse and their life is, you know, kind of changing and they're a little stressed, you know, just let them be. Or if they're asking you for advice, give them advice and then let them do whatever. But don't push relationship stuff right now because the timing's off. And so things aren't going to work very easily. When it comes to your home and family, you are pulling energy from that eclipse sun. And because it's in a financial house, there could be something going on related to home. Maybe that your rent is going up, or maybe you're trying to buy a house in this crazy, crazy market right now. And maybe you need to look at something entirely different. This could mean that maybe you need to take in a roommate, or maybe live in a much smaller place, or maybe rent out a room or something until the market calms down enough for you to say, oh, okay, now I can find a place. Or perhaps you are saying, all right, no, this is something that I really want. And so maybe you're looking at selling off things or finding a second job so that you can hang on to the place that you have. So, but this is where I think that extraordinary effort is coming in. Now, of course, because this is the house of family, perhaps you are going to family members and saying, let's pool our money together and our resources together and our knowledge together so that we can stabilize our home situation. And so, you know, maybe the family's getting together and buying some land, and then you can build a little house on that or something like that. So there are lots of solutions here. And so, you know, this this energy says if you are open to those solutions, the universe will hand them to you. Now, as I mentioned before, you are doing great money energy because you have the North Node, Sun, Moon, and Mercury going through your house of money. All of those are very happy planets, and you are pulling money from that Mercury, which is retrograde, which means that money is coming to you again. And this can be that if you have one client, they come back and become a repeating client, or they bring more clients with them. It can mean that if you've gotten a bonus in the past, you're getting another one. If you've sold something for a really good profit, you can do it again. So there is some additional money opportunities for you. And, you know, because you have these great planets in that house, you can pull money from lots of different sources now. So the biggest enemy that you have is your own brain telling you that things are hard or that it's not going to be there when you need it. Instead, you know, ask yourself questions that are helpful. You know, how can I make $500 today? How can I take what I already know and the equipment I already have and do something? So this is a big money opportunity for you during this 2-week period. And because this is the eclipse chart, this can go on for months. Now, it's going to sound a little counter when I say, when I look at your house of investments and business income, that you're not making more than usual because there's no aspect between Mercury and Jupiter. But that's okay because you are laying the groundwork here. But it also says that if those are the conventional ways that you make money, then look for something else. Look for getting it through selling something or starting a different business or something like that. But it says that you're making about the same with what you're doing on a regular basis and where you expect money to come in. Now, on the other hand, money derived from career looks excellent because the Jupiter has now gone into that house and it's very protective. Plus, Mercury is making a square with Neptune. And so you have two indicators that say you're going to be making more money than usual. So what do you do if you own a business and you show only that the money derived from career is where it's coming from? And what you do is you have to then work side by side with your employees. You have to kind of punch the clock and pretend that you're an employee. And so, you know, as a person who does many different things, I do have different aspects of what I do. Some of it that I consider as a job because I do maybe writing a column here and there and I get paid for that. And so therefore that is coming, you know, it's kind of like 1099 work. And that's different than my consulting business, which is just my own business. And so if you have various sources of income, you may find that some of those sources fall more neatly in that I work for somebody else. And that's usually where somebody else is the boss, somebody else has a deadline for you, somebody else has specifications of what that job is. And that then is defined by that 11th house, and that's the one that's doing the good aspects. And then when it comes to risky investments, and these could be things such as, you know, doing exotic investments like commodities, and of course everybody's always writing me about cryptocurrencies and things like that. That falls into that category. Also things like franchises or selling your business. It is all ruled by that Mercury retrograde, and so this is you going back and re-looking at something that was going to make you money in the past. Maybe you set it aside, or maybe it had some delays and now things are moving again. You know, with the eclipse energy, something has probably changed about it. So look at what has changed and see if it's still as viable as it was before. But this is some pretty good energy, as the ruler of your risky investment house is in a money house, and I love to see that. So, you know, just as always, I want you to be cautious, but this has some possibilities now. So Gemini natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your house of self-confidence, your constitution, your appearance, and the mirror house of relationships. And of course, it is your eclipse. And so you are the most likely sign to be affected by this eclipse, and that includes if you have Gemini rising. So this is where you're getting the most change, is just everywhere in your life could change, but specifically it is that you want your opinions to be counted, that you want to be heard by others, especially your significant other. You may want to change your appearance in some way. You may want to grow muscles or shrink down, or you want to make, a statement. And so maybe you're thinking about, cosmetic surgery or tattoos or something like that. So this is where this energy is. Because of that mirror house, it also can mean that you're getting into a relationship or out of a relationship, or it is how you perceive others perceive you. Sorry, that was a little... So, and sometimes, we don't always perceive correctly how others see us. And so, I of course find that the best thing to do is to be kind to everyone and give people the benefit of the doubt, and to really try to understand their side of it. But I'm certainly not perfect in this area. I have really strong opinions about things, obviously, since I have a channel and all. So this is something to work on right now, because you're doing that eclipse in this house, and interpersonal relationships are highlighted. Now, Jupiter, the planet that we are calling the little escape artist right now, is in your house of career and in your house of reputation. And so where you might be escaping all the interpersonal relationship turmoil is into your career. So you might be just saying to yourself, you know what, I'm just going to lose myself in my job and just go to work and not do anything else. And so that's the little warning there. It also can mean that when you are out there in the social media world, because this rules reputation, that you want to make sure that you are guarding your reputation and not necessarily passing around information that you haven't independently confirmed, or that you think, that you haven't thought through about the ramifications of what you're saying. So this is just, don't be on autopilot when it comes to posting. The Jupiter will protect you, but remember, Jupiter won't be there forever. It is going to go back into your 9th house and out of this house of reputation, and then that protection's gone for a little while. And that's when it could come back and bite you. When it comes to that Mars, the thing to be letting go of is something to do with money. And that could mean that you have some money attitudes, or that you have attitudes about tracking your money. Maybe you are really holding on to money, but in a form that's not making you more money, or you're holding on to a bunch of stuff that you could sell. And so this says to look at your issues around security and about possessions and see what you can let go of. Now, when it comes to relationships, you don't have an aspect going on between Mercury and Jupiter. However, you have a pretty amazing first house going on. And so therefore, there's a ton of energy for relationships, but some of the timing will be off. And so you might be ready to speak to your beloved about all of the issues that you two have, but that they're really busy, they're watching their favorite show, or they're getting ready for work or something like that. So watch the timing on these things and allow them to kind of guide the timing. If they say, let's talk about this later, then do that. But, try not to let that be the problem. Now, if it comes to looking for love or, moving a relationship forward, well, you have good energy here, but again, the timing might be off, and that is you might post your profile and not get as many responses, or you respond to someone and they don't respond right away, etc. So just be patient, but actually move forward by doing the things to, set up the first date. But then if the first date doesn't happen, just say, okay, we'll just wait for a little while longer. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Mercury retrograde and all of those strong opinionated planets in your house of self. And so you might be feeling like you are not being heard in the family, and that you are having to say again what it is that you want and need. And I do feel like this time you can be heard, but you may have to adjust how you're saying something. And so look at why they didn't hear you the first time, time, are they just really busy, or are they ignoring it because, it's something that's so different for them that it's not in their concepts yet? So try to be a little patient, but it is time to say again what it is you want to get across, or to have the conversation you've been looking to have with family or the people you live with. So you have Venus and Mars in your house of money, and that is a good thing because Mars takes action. And being that Mars is at 29, it may be taking this like last ditch action, that little burst of energy at the end of the race to have you cross the finish line first. So I like that. When Mars does get out of this house, you're only going to have Venus there, and that can mean that you are spending money more than making money, so you do want to watch out for that. You're pulling energy from that moon, which is part of this eclipse, and so this is about how your identity is tied up with you keeping track of your money or accumulating your money. And so that is, how do you describe it to yourself? And that can be, I'm really good with money, but I haven't been lately, and so I'm going to change that. Or I am terrible with money and I'm hopeless and I'll never change. How are you describing this? Or if you call yourself a spender, well, then you're going to spend. But if you say, I did have to do some spending, or I did spend in the past, but now I'm embracing frugality, or I'm embracing minimalism. If you're doing something like that, if you rename it, then you can see that ripple out into a change in behavior. And this is the perfect time to do it because that money house is ruled by that moon involved in the eclipse. Now, when it comes to investment income and business income, you are doing a fabulous trine between the moon and Saturn. So you are probably going to be making more money and possibly even setting up new sources of income that could last for some time. So this is really a time to lean into how you're making money through your business. Maybe you are getting ready to launch a new program, or you are expanding your business in some way. And this is the same with your investments. You may find that you are doing better on your investments, possibly because you are letting go of, some of the things that you were holding on to, preconceived notions, or you're just putting more money into your investments because you are now not buying a bunch of stuff. So, but whatever the case is, I do see you making more money than usual over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you are not doing an aspect between Moon and Mars is changing signs, which means that something substantial could be changing at your job. So going in right now and asking for a raise is going to be hit with this, like, we can't do anything right now because something's changing, and so you might as well just wait to hear what that is. Now, it could also mean that you are thinking about changing jobs yourself, because we do have that changing energy, and then with that Jupiter that is elevated in your chart, you would be able to ask for more money and do the negotiations. Mars will go into your house of negotiations in just a few days, and so that will help. So I think that this is, if you're staying put, it's tough to ask for a raise right now. It's tough to make more money than usual. But if you are making a change in your job, or if your current job, you're saying, I'm going to take on more responsibility, or I'm going to do more hours, or something like that, then we could see the increase. But otherwise, you're making about the same. And when it comes to risky investments, you are not doing an aspect between Moon and Venus is in your house of money, which normally I like, but Venus can be a spender. And so this might be that you are looking to, put money into something, but maybe not completely sure about what it is that you are doing. And, it sounds terrible. I don't mean that you don't know your business. You do. But when it comes to risky investments, they are risky for a reason, and that is generally that some of the parameters of it are unknowable. And so that does mean that you have to take a risk, like what Annie Duke talks about in her books, and the difficulty, or the difference between the difficulty of a chess game where every piece is visible and a poker game where you don't know all the information. Risky investments are more like a poker game where the other person's cards, you can estimate what they are, but they are unknowable. And so that's why they're That's why it's risky. That's why it's gambling. And so then when you're not doing an aspect, but the ruler is in a house of money, there is the desire to say, oh, I have to make this investment, even though you may not have all the information or you may not have all the contracts in place, because Mars is just on the cusp of that house of contracts. And so maybe you're thinking to just move forward a little too much before actually paperwork's in place. So I just want you to be cautious this time. Okay, Cancer natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your hidden house, that 12th house, and that is that you may be plagued by unnamed fears at this time, or you are getting ready to deal with fears, which is the best way to do this. Now, unnamed fears are the worst. That is that little nagging sensation that something's off, and then you set your brain to work on that thing, and then it comes up with all kinds of different things because it can't find what it is, because it's a hidden fear. It is an undefined fear. And so it is, it's better when especially when you're doing the eclipse, when you feel that sort of nagging feeling that something's off, then instead of saying, well, what am I afraid of? Or, what's bothering me? To say, I know that I can handle this, whatever it is. I trust myself. I believe in myself. So that's the solution for this. In all cases, the cure for fear is curiosity and faith. And so the faith is in yourself. I believe in myself, or I believe in a higher power, or both. And then the curiosity. Oh, you know what? This could mean that I'm outside my comfort zone, and so something new is coming. I live that. I think it's what is it called? The Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton, and Skeleton Jack he gets thrown into this new world, and he says, someplace new. I love that energy of like someplace new. And that's what this eclipse could be, is like it brings you to a place psychologically or spiritually that's someplace new. And so instead of feeling uncomfortable, feel that curiosity of what am I going to uncover? I mean, this can, with this eclipse, bring you an epiphany or a psychic experience. And, you can say, oh, that was really scary. Maybe it's a dream that you haven't interpreted yet with some, imagery that you weren't liking. But perhaps this also is what you're letting go of and what you're processing in your subconscious, so you don't have to process it in your real life. So, looking at this eclipse in your 12th house, focus on curiosity, focus on faith, and look at different ways to express your spirituality. Now, interestingly enough, Jupiter is going through your house of religion and knowledge, and this is where we were talking about this escape. And so it might be that you then say, oh, well, I've had this dream, and then you read every dream book there ever was, and you get kind of caught up in all the contradictory information and all of that. Or you may find some solace or some help through a conventional religion, and that's possible. So, but you just don't want it to go into the escape area. Jupiter is a great planet, and Pisces is a wonderful sign, of sensitivity and intuition and art and music and design and all of that. But if you're using it as an escape, this is, getting or escaping through novels or, through stories that are not necessarily helping you deal with your life. And then Mars is in your first house of your self-confidence, your physical self, and how you see yourself in general. And so when it says to let go of something, this could be letting go of a preconceived notion about yourself, how you describe yourself. Maybe you describe yourself in very limiting terms, and so that you could let go of. It can mean that you are shifting your diet and letting go of some pounds. This can also mean that you are looking at your wardrobe and saying, I don't want to wear this anymore, and letting that go. So any of these things, anything that you can let go about your physical self is good right now. When it comes to relationships, you have Venus in the first house, which is lovely, which means that you look good right now and that your charm and your magnetism is very strong. Plus, we have a wonderful trine between Moon and Saturn. Now, that Moon is hidden. That Moon is not that visible. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's actually quite visible to everyone else. It's just you are not feeling it so much. So this is good energy for you to meet someone new, but it's more likely that they're going to find you. You may be having a little trouble actually connecting with them. And so just, put your name out there or tell your cousin you're willing to let them fix you up, and then let them do all of that stuff, because this could be a really good connection. When it comes to home and family, it's pulling energy from that Venus in the first house, and so you do have some really good energy. People are getting along, and so I expect some good reports of how things were going on at home over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to your money, you have Mars that is just about to go into this house. It's just going to take a day or so, and then it is in your house of money, and this will give you a burst of energy towards making money, and that will last for a couple of months. And so you are going to see that there are new sources of money coming to you. But currently, for the next 2 weeks, you do have the energy being pulled from this eclipse sun, which does say change something about how you look at money, how you handle money. This might be that you do need to be a little bit more careful about your money, to count your money, maybe hide some money from yourself if you tend to spend a lot. But mostly what happens when the ruler of the second is in the 12th house, it gives you the feeling like you don't want to deal with this money stuff. And that can be detrimental to your wealth if you are not paying attention to it, because, then maybe an account gets late and then they tack on the fees, and you get into that circle of just, fees and high interest and things like that. So it's important to pay attention. And with the Mars going through this house, you really can do that, but recognize that the energy of this chart, which is for the eclipse and specifically for the next 2 weeks, isn't that strong for that. So you do want to focus and say, I'm going to pay attention even though I want to go do something else. When it comes to money that comes from career or investments, and this would also include a family business or even the money that you get through your partner, you are doing a wide semi-sextile between the Sun and Uranus, and semi-sextile is not that great anyway. So the semi-sextile does say that the things that you need to do to make this money are somewhat irritating, and the fact that it's wide means there's more of a desire to do it than actually getting the results. So I think you'll make a tiny bit more than usual, but not that much. I think the most interesting thing, of course, and I think I say this every time, is that you've got this connection between your more passive income sources and your career income, which might mean that you need to look at your 401k or other perks that your company has, because there might be something that you haven't done. And with the semi-sextile, maybe it is that some piece of paperwork isn't done yet, or something needs a signature or a box checked or something like that, and then you can start to accumulate some money that way. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, it is pulling money from that Venus, but Venus is not making an aspect to the Sun, and the Sun is buried in the 12th house, and the Sun is going through an eclipse. So the Sun is actually blocked by the Moon. So whatever it is that you're trying to do with your career is actually, there's a literal block in your way. And that is somebody who is saying, no, you can't have more hours, or you can't have a raise. They are standing in your way. And here you are, looking good with a good resume or a good list of accomplishments, and you're saying, why is this happening? And it is just that the timing is not there, and it's more not there than usual because the Sun is involved in the eclipse. And so this timing is going to shift, so you just have to wait a little bit. If you were planning on asking for a raise or more hours or better commission schedule or something like that, this is not the time to do it. Now, when it comes to risky investments, there is a wide inconjunct between the Sun and Pluto. And this to me says that there is some information that's coming to you, but somehow it is unpleasant and completely shifts your whole view of this. So this could be that there is a little bit in the contract that you suddenly see, oh, you know, like some sort of non-compete or some other limitation, and it's going to take you negotiating before you move forward on this. This also could indicate that if you are in some unconventional investments or risky investments right now, that there could be some big fluctuations and that you want to figure out ahead of time whether it's wise for you to write it out or if you need to focus on how you can make an adjustment, because the inconjunct says make an adjustment. And that might be that you sell part of it or you convert it somehow or something like that. This inconjunct is also wide, and that does mean that there's more of a desire to do it than an ability to do it. And so that can be that you're seeing this unfold. So if you're watching this ahead of time, look at these risky investments and see what you can do to protect yourself from the downside now. Okay, Leo natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your 11th house of basically the worlds, you know, the groups, organizations, the bigger picture, also technology and friendships. And so with the eclipse there, you may have this sudden realization that you're living small, that you are not living up to your potential. But you can also do the other side of this, which is this idea that the world out there is overwhelming, that it's, you know, that everything that's happening is outside of your control and that you can't make a difference. And so it's finding the balance between how can you live the bigger life and how can you release what is not in your control. And so this is very much about finding, you know, your beliefs, what it is that you want to have happen in your future, and setting a vision out there. You know, it's so true that what you tell the universe that you are willing to accept in your life and what you're demanding, these things do happen. And oftentimes when we feel like we don't have any control over this, that we're just this, you know, little boat bobbing along the ocean and we can't steer and we can't, you know, put up the sails and direct our direction, then we just allow the universe, or worse, you know, like the media or people in charge, to decide what we're going to do and where we're going to live and what we're going to, you know, eat and how we're going to work and all of that. And this says to push back and say, no, universe, this is what I want. So at this point, you may decide that you want to do a different profession or have different friends or be involved in different groups, or that you want to make some big change in your life. Or you just decide that you're going to demand more out of yourself, that you are going to raise your standards. And so all of this is connected to this eclipse. So Jupiter in Pisces is that point of escape that we were talking about in the beginning. If you didn't watch the beginning part, we talked about that. And that is in your house of intimacy, sex, basically, and resources. And so, yes, you could go down that rabbit hole of intimacy and all of that. I don't want to get into that. So, but if you are, that is an escape that you're using to avoid your life, and that's not good. When it comes to the resources part of that, I mean, it's very lucky to have the Jupiter there. We're going to talk about the good things in a moment, but the escape is that you're just waiting for somebody to rescue you, right? Waiting for somebody to send you a sum of money or something like that without even picking up the phone and saying, hey, where's my money? So you don't want to escape into this and into that sort of passive mode. You want to use that Jupiter very actively. When it comes to that Mars and letting go, that Mars is extremely prominent in your chart because it's right on the horizon, and that means that it's visible. It's a visible planet, and now we see it rising in your chart, and so that means you really, really have to let go of something. And of course, that could be stuff, it could be relationships, being that it will cross into the first house very soon. That could mean that you are letting go of some aspect of yourself, you know, attitudes that you have about about yourself, letting go of your lack of confidence, letting go of some pounds, changing something about yourself. But as in this chart represents, this eclipse energy, this could also be letting go of habits, letting go of stuff, so really focus on what you can let go of so that you can welcome in something new. So when it comes to relationships, you're doing a wide semi-sextile between Sun and Uranus. So the timing is there, but there's more of a desire to do it than actually it manifesting. And so it means that as you're meeting somebody, you might think, oh, that person is so perfect, but you find out later they're with somebody, or that they are just about to move to, New York or Guam or Japan or something, and so they're going to be really far away. So there is some issues around that, and with that wide aspect, you always have to work a little bit harder to make something happen, and it's a semi-sextile, so it's slightly irritating. So you have to do something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you have to do more of it to make this happen. But, that sounded terrible, but with all of that said, it's still an aspect, and so therefore you have more of a chance than if you didn't have an aspect. So you do want to pursue it, and if they say they're moving to Japan, well, at least open up those lines of communication, because maybe you want to move to Japan someday yourself. So when it comes to home and family, it is represented by that Pluto in your house of routines and processes and things like that, and of course that Mars at 29 Cancer. And so that is declutter the house. The more you let go of the house, the more you will also let go of emotional blocks and arguments and things like that. I mean, I don't mean let go of somebody else's stuff, because that would cause an argument, but let go of the clutter in the house, if you have any, so that you can have this open feeling and this better energy in the house, and that will help everybody in the family. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury, which is retrograde, but it's in a money house. It's in your house of money derived from career. And so this means that you could be getting a better job. You could be getting some sort of bonus or increase, that more money has the potential of flowing in, especially money that is owed to you. So that can come in. When we look at your investments and business income, now we have the Jupiter there, and we have the positive aspects of that Jupiter, of it expanding your opportunities for business income, family business income, income that your partner is making, income from investments. Additionally, Mercury is making a square to that Neptune, and so you have really some excellent aspects for making money from your business or from some passive income sources. So this is something you really want to push. Additionally, when we look at your money derived from career, you also have some amazing energy, because in that house we have North Node, Sun, Moon, and Mercury. Of course, it is the eclipse, and so that means something needs to change. So this could mean that you're getting a new boss, you're getting a new job, or you're taking on different duties or things like that. But the energy for making more money is extremely strong. So you do want to push it. And it does say, because this is ruled by that Mercury retrograde, that you saw this before and maybe you didn't take it, or maybe you tried to take it and it wasn't quite available. Well, now it is. So over the next 2 weeks, you definitely want to make this push, because you could get a new job, better position, and you can certainly make more money. Now, when it comes to money from risky investments, and these could be things that are very exotic or things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, it is ruled by that Jupiter, which is not making an aspect to Mercury, and Mercury's retrograde. So it could mean that you are getting additional information about this. The mirror house of your eclipse is in that house of risky investments. So that can be some new information that just changes the whole situation. So you do want to be quite careful, because there's no aspect between Mercury and Jupiter. I don't see you making a lot of money in this time, and because because it's connected to the eclipse, you have to be super careful if you're thinking about getting into something, because the moment you sign on the dotted line, you could discover there's some new information that changes everything. So if possible, put off the signing until perhaps we get past the full moon and we look at what your chart is then, or that you just wait to see what this new information is before you commit. Okay, Virgo natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your 10th house. That represents your career. And so this can have the literal effect of causing you to change jobs or bringing something that is going to make your job much less enjoyable in the future and will then cause you to start to look for a new job. This is also about your general sense of security and reputation. So this is a time where if you have been kind of playing fast and loose with your reputation out in the world, that this could be the universe stepping in to help you out about this. You know, it's so interesting because the universe will give us signs, and those signs can be out there in the world where, we see somebody doing something similar and that they get in trouble for it. And then it comes a little closer. Maybe we have a close call and something could have gotten us in trouble. And if we are still not paying attention, then the universe, lands on us and we become the example for other people. And so you always want to be looking at those outward signs so that you don't have to do something that is so personal. But I think overall we have to recognize that the universe loves us and is trying to get us on our path, the path that we said we wanted to be on, the things that we wanted to learn, the things in life we wanted to explore. And so when we get blocked or when something is taken away, we need to recognize that this is the universe helping us be on our path. And so instead of, seeing, oh, I can't believe this was taken away from me, this is so terrible, say, oops, I must have been on the wrong path, and where can I go from here? So the most difficult part of this eclipse is feeling like everybody else has the power, everybody else has a great life and all of that, and you feeling like you're stuck. When in actuality, there is always a way to figure out something to, and yes, it could be so tiny and so many things could be working against you. I don't want to underestimate the fact that there are truly things that can work against us, but the universe will help us out if we are helping ourselves. If we're willing to build the raft, then the universe will bring those people to rescue us. But if we're not even willing to build the raft, then there's trouble, then there's difficulty. So with this eclipse, the thing to recognize is your reputation is important, so don't play fast and loose with that. And there could be significant changes going on in your company or industry, so look for those signs. If you are noticing that other companies are automating your job, you want to be looking for something else, and this may mean you have to retrain or you have to look at an entirely new career. If you are seeing some downsizing going on in your company and it hasn't hit your department yet, it could. So just keep that in mind. So when it comes to Jupiter, and we are talking about Jupiter not here from the point of luck, but the point of escape, and it is in your house of relationships. And so your escape point would be focusing so much on other people's stuff and, like worrying about what your kids are doing or worrying about what your partner's doing rather than looking at what you need to change yourself. So, and yes, there's a wonderful side where you might be doing things to help them. That's great. But if you are not paying attention to yourself over a long period of time, then there can be some difficulties that come to visit you. So, again, that Jupiter has the two sides. All the planets actually have two sides to them, a positive side and a negative side. And the negative side of this Jupiter in Pisces is this desire to escape, and it would be through relationships and completely focusing on that and not caring about the fact that, that there are changes going on in your company or that there's changes going on in society where you want to do something different. And so you're going to have to look and say, what else can I be doing, rather than saying, oh, they should be doing something different. When we look at the Mars and what you should be letting go of, it's interesting because it's in your house of groups, organizations, friends, and technology. So starting with technology, maybe you have some old computers you have to get rid of, or, and that's always a bother because, you have to clear it off the disk, and you might have to take it apart to get the disk out and all this other stuff. But maybe it is looking how to get rid of technology. And I didn't even mention the other hard part that, usually has to go to hazardous waste or electronic removal or something, because we have to be kind to the planet. That's very important. Without the planet, we're all not in a good place. When it comes to friendships, maybe looking at your friendships and saying, who's with me, who are my friends who are really supporting me and who I am happy to support, or who is, just a friend that is leaving me tired and feeling more scared, or just constantly sending me news stories that are freaking me out or something like that. And maybe letting go, or at least creating some distance between you and that friend. And the same goes with organizations that you belong to. If that organization is no longer, something that you are really focused on and believing in, or maybe you don't have time for right now and you just need to take a break. But looking at, where you need to put some distance between yourself and others, friendships or acquaintances through groups, that's what this Mars is about. So when it comes to relationships, you are actually doing really good energy, because just as much as I was beating up poor Jupiter there, Jupiter is also wonderful to have in your 7th house, and Mercury is making a square to that Neptune. So your relationship energy is amazing right now. You definitely want to, find people to go out with, whether it's through matchmaker or online dating, or that you have your aunt fix you up with somebody that they've been wanting to fix you up with for a while. Or you want to move your current relationship forward. Any of these things are good. Your relationship energy is excellent, and so you want to capitalize on that. That kind of flies in the face of everything I was saying about losing yourself in the relationship. So, you want the balance. If your job is showing definite signs of having issues, you don't want to just go on your dates and not be thinking about that. So that's where the balance comes in. When it comes to home life, you are pulling energy from that Jupiter, and so that could mean that you and your sweetheart are thinking about getting a house together or moving in together. It also can be that you as a family are welcoming in friends to now come and visit as things are opening up now. So there is just more joy and happiness happening at home. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Venus in your house of money derived from career, and I love to see that. I love to see a money planet in a money house, and so it does say that more money can come to you because you are pulling that money in directly. And that might mean that you are getting a better job, negotiating for a better salary, or having some sort of perk come through from your job. When it comes to business income or passive income sources, Venus is not making an aspect with that Mars, and Mars is in that letting go stage. So this is more about looking at the investments that are not really performing and deciding whether it's time to let go of those so you can free up cash for future investments. And the same goes for your business. What are the business things that you're doing or the products that you're selling that are not really making you a profit, and seeing what you can let go of? That will free up resources for the future. So this is less about trying to add and more about trying to subtract, and that's what brings you the benefits. When it comes to money derived from career, you have an excellent house with Venus and Mars there, and you have a really strong career house, but there's no aspect going on between Venus and the Moon, which I think you're going to make the usual money. I think the additional money just comes outside this period, which is about 2 weeks. And so you're probably getting the new job, but you don't get the paycheck within that period, or there is a promise of the raise or something like that. But it actually shows up in your paycheck after this period. And so you're making about the same as usual. With such good planets there, you might be making a little bit more, but not so much that you say, oh, this is so noticeable. I think I think it's very stable in that sense, that there may be no break between, the income that you're making from the former job and the income that you're making from the new job. And so therefore it stays steady, but the increase is showing later. Now, when it comes to riskier investments, and this would include things like buying a business, selling a business, or doing something that takes a lot of time, energy, or money to figure out even how to do. So all of your exotic investments and all of these kind of things, even to the point of like day trading, which we would consider that you might be trading very conventional securities, but you're doing it in a very unconventional way. And so therefore it falls in this area. And so you're doing an inconjunct between Venus and Saturn, which means that you can accumulate more money, you can make more money doing things that you dislike. And that might be that you are having to spend more time actually just poring over the data, really analyzing why some of your trades are working, why they're not working, autopsying your trades basically, or that you are having to, go through a course about something or read through a lot of paperwork or regulations or things like that. So it's, if you're willing to put in the work, you do show more money. Okay, Libra natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your area of spirituality, legal matters, things that are foreign, travel, and higher education. And so this eclipse is about looking at the information that you're receiving and seeing if this is accurate, if this is something that is that you're consuming that is taking you down a different path, and it is not something that maybe you're independently confirming. It is to look at what you are studying and working to learn and saying, is this valuable for me, or should I make a change? It is also looking at your spirituality or religious beliefs and saying, how maybe you want to expand these, maybe you want to pull back, maybe you want to look at a different belief system. So all of these types of things are what this eclipse is asking you to change. Now, on the more practical level, of course, this could mean there is some sort of contract that is coming up that you need to be careful when you are signing to make sure you really understand it. Or there are some government regulations or, something to do with your student loans or your education in general. So looking at that, this is also about teaching, writing, and publishing. So something that you could do is to launch your book or publish your screenplay, get your copyright stuff done, and things like that, because that would bring in the government and the legal stuff and all of that. So it is about, looking at what you are, what kind of content you're putting out in the world and saying, this is what I want to be doing. Or if you have felt like you really want to write a book and you have not been doing it, maybe it is time to pick up the pen, or in my case, the keyboard, and start doing that. Now, when we look at Jupiter, and to this time we are looking at both sides of Jupiter, and this point we're looking at how Jupiter can cause us to escape. It's in your 6th house of doing all the daily mundane things. And so this is, I can't work on my book because I have to do laundry, or I can't go to religious services because I promised that I would dust the living room or something like that. So it is looking to see how our day-to-day activities are keeping us from doing the bigger thing. And so this is, where you might be so caught up in the day-to-day of your business that you can't launch the bigger projects, or that you are so caught up in the everyday habits, that I get up at a certain time and then I have to do the dishes and then I need to watch my television shows or things like that, and therefore missing the bigger opportunities. When we look at the Mars, that is asking you to let go of something that is very elevated in your chart. So it's in your house of career. So it may be that you need to let go of a career aspiration, or that you have some sort of job and that it is time to finish that up and move on to a different career. Perhaps, you know, with all of this stuff in your house of education, you have gotten a degree in something and now you need to transition into a new career. But this could also say, you know, like, what about you yourself? Are you holding back? You know, this with an elevated Mars, you can be a leader, but maybe you are saying, I'm not ready to lead, or I don't know what I'm doing. And it's time to find that confidence within you and say, no, I'm going to move forward anyway. And it also could be because all right, I'm about to open a big can of worms here. So astrology is a big growing science, and there are lots of different opinions about it, and it's been around for thousands of years. And so we see it changing, and there's so many different ways of looking at things. And so some astrologers believe that the 10th house represents father or the paternal parent, and the lessons that person brought, or maybe even the restrictions that person brought. And so this Mars could be letting go of those restrictions and those ideas, or the things that your father wanted you to do, and go to do your own life. And so, yep, that was a big can of worms. So I know that's, you know, this is just a short video, and I'm trying to get these big concepts across because I want you to have this information. But of course, if this is resonating with you and you need more information, you know, go talk to your astrologer and say, all right, I'm doing this energy, and how can I work with this? That's what astrology is for, is so that we can learn about ourselves, and so we can have that GPS for the future to say what's coming up, and, you know, how can I capitalize on the opportunities and avoid the challenges. Not necessarily avoid the challenges, deal with the challenges, avoid the obstacles. Avoid the obstacles. When it comes to relationships, everything I just said about that Mars applies, because you're not doing an aspect between Venus and Mars. And so this means that that thing that I was saying that you might need to let go of, maybe it's your relationship. And that it's also possible that maybe you're single and the single status needs to be let go of, or maybe you're doing everything on your own and you need a partner. And so again, that's and that could be a business partner or just a partner to work out with or something like that. But maybe you have to let go of doing things alone. So, or you know, the antithesis of that, which is maybe the person you're with is not helping you out. And so you need to let go of that relationship and move on to something that is going to be more compatible and more beneficial for both of you. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Saturn that is just about to make that second square with Uranus. And so the Saturn is the structure, it's the tradition, it's the old ways of doing things. And Uranus is the new way of doing things, and it takes the old way of doing things, it takes it apart and then uses those raw materials to build something else. And that is what we're seeing for your home and family. And then what that could possibly mean is everything from renovating the house, and you know, in this case, this would be something possibly to do with things that are warm in the house, so the heating system, the fireplace, because we've got Aquarius stuff going on, well, and Saturn too, we have the structure of the house and things like that. But I think that this is more about family dynamics, where, you know, perhaps the traditional ways of the family, which could be very limiting, need to give way to the younger generation or the new ideas. And so perhaps, you know, your kids have a different way of doing things, and you need to look and see what you can adopt, or at least adapt to, in this changing world. So we do have some things that maybe you've held on to, or maybe the family itself has held on to, that are now giving way to something new. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Pluto in your 4th house. So, and I've already mentioned that multiple times, it's still going to be there for a while. But additionally, that Mars at 29 Cancer, that is going to change signs. So first of all, that says when it comes to your money, look at what you're doing and what is making you some money, and see if you shouldn't let go of something so that you free up your time and resources to do something that is worth more. Additionally, it does say something is changing anyway, and so you are going to, if you don't let go of something, the universe is going to come and take something from you, and this will then free you up and bring you something new. So don't hang on too tight. If something, like if somebody tries to take something from you that you think is something that is a money-making activity, and they say, oh, well, you can still do this, but for half the money or something like that, say, no, take it, let it go. Don't hold on to something that's going to become less valuable. And that's the same with stuff. If you have stuff that is losing value because of the changes of people's taste, or, how people treat stuff in general, now might be the time to sell off stuff before it becomes less valuable in the future if it's already in decline. So I think I kind of said that backwards a little bit. At least some of my sentence structure wasn't perfect, for sure. But I hope I got the meaning across, is that if you're seeing something declining in value, let it go. Don't try to hang on to it and let it take you on the ride all the way down to the bottom. When it comes to money derived from career or passive income sources or a family business, you're making about the same as usual, because Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto, and so Venus is elevated, and so there is some opportunities for better publicity, more social media following, and maybe the YouTube algorithm really likes you at this time. That's fantastic, but it's not necessarily translating into more money than usual. So I think you're making about the same as usual. When it comes to money derived from career, you have a couple of opportunities here. First, that Mars is going to go into that house, bringing you a lot of energy for asking for raises, getting more sales. Basically, it's just really supercharging your energy. Plus, the Sun is making an inconjunct to that Pluto, which does say that maybe you're not enjoying some of the things that you are doing to make money, but it is working. And so the inconjunct just says for you to adjust, and that means that, maybe you are working some hours that you aren't liking so much, but you could shift your shift. You could change your shift with someone else, but that means you're hitting some traffic in your commute or something like that. So it's kind of a back and forth, give and take sort of aspect. But as you make the change, you do make more money. So that's the plus. Okay, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the investments that take a lot of time, energy, and money to make happen, now we have like a little tightrope that you're walking right now. And it's a tightrope that's really high up, and there's like that Mission Impossible music playing. I mean, this is definitely in the risky category. And I'm saying that because there's no aspect between your money house, your personal money house, where you would accumulate money, and the house of risky investment. However, the ruler of your house of risky investment is in a money house, and that planet in that house is about to square that planet. So I'm seeing something's going on. Now, I think this means that whatever it is about to change, and you have the opportunity, if you're nimble, to capitalize on this. But this means to not hold on to the old, but to embrace the new. And that is to be willing to destroy whatever it is that you have in order to rebuild it into something better. And, I don't even know if I could come up with an analogy for this, because this is such an unusual aspect. This is more that you are needing to be aware that, one, you're already in a risky investment, and so making sure that there is protection on the downside would be very helpful at this time. The second is that someone, now I thought of an analogy. This could be like having a stock that maybe is something that's much more volatile, and instead of doing a regular split, they do a reverse split. And in a reverse split, you might have had 100 shares, and they do a 5-for-1 reverse split, and now you have 20 shares. And so it feels like, yikes, what's happened here? This is so unusual, and now I feel like I have less. But at that point, then the price now has been inflated, so you don't. If you don't know how these splits work, I don't know, send me a question and then we can talk about it, or talk to your broker. That's even better. Talk to your broker. So, but what can happen is that people have an attitude about where a price should be, and so that's when a reverse split happens. People are trying to manipulate that perception. And so that's kind of walking the tightrope. They're kind of taking something and destroying it to try to make it better. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. The fact that there is no good connection, or any connection actually, to your personal house of money tells me that in all this change, you're either remaining the same or you're not in as strong a position as you were before. And so it may be that you want to get out of your position. So your position is tenuous right now, and you're on a tightrope. And yes, you might be a tightrope walker, but it's still a little perilous where you are. So you want to be aware of the changes that are happening. So if nothing else, you want to monitor it. Wow, that sounded really dire. So I don't, also recognize that this is an aspect that is fairly short. We're not looking at your personal chart, and so this is something where I'm just doing a very general reading. And so, if you are Libra or Libra rising, and you are, if any of this resonates with you, then talk to your financial professional, talk to your broker, talk to the person that is the expert at this, and just to see what's going on, because that's sometimes enough energy to assuage any negative energy in the chart, is just finding out the information, especially because you're doing it in eclipse in the house of information. So look at that. I just wanted to add that little bit. Because generally I like to be upbeat. Okay, Scorpio natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your house of resources, and this eclipse says that you are wanting to have more control over the things that bring you a sense of security in your life, whether that be that your relationship is stable, or that your ability to make money is stable, or that your ability to gain credit is stable. But you're looking at what you can control and what is outside of your control, and seeing where you can create that sense of security. Now, this does say that possibly sources that were giving you money, especially passive income sources or business income, could get disrupted. Now, this is also at the same time where you have a great house for passive income, so it may just mean making a change. This really comes down to how you're going to direct that change. So this is not you putting all your finances in the hands of somebody else, but it's fine to work with somebody, but you should be opening your statements. You should be looking at the numbers. You should be asking questions. That's what this eclipse is for. It is not to put, and I know they're passive income sources. They're supposed to be passive, but they're not. It is necessary, especially for you at this time, to be very aware of, where your money is and how it's working for you. And if it's not, to look at making some changes. So we are looking at Jupiter also from the two sides of Jupiter. One, of course, Jupiter is quite beneficial and brings us luck and protection, but also it can give us this desire to escape. Oh, well, it's in Sagittarius. And so it is escaping in this house of pleasure and gambling and risky investments. So we'll talk about the risky investments in a moment because it can be beneficial there. But where you can escape is thinking that I'm not making money in my regular passive income sources or in traditional investments, so I'm going to try something riskier. And that might be an escape for you, but it may not be so beneficial. So we want to look at that. So, keep listening as we get to that point. But also it can escape into that area of pleasure where pleasure becomes the most important thing. And some of the other things like security or, integrity or, just showing up on time or things like that get pushed to the wayside. So look at how you are balancing that energy of Jupiter, and so you're not just running away from obligations that you might have. So when it comes to the Mars, and the Mars, we're focusing on it changing signs and what we're needing to let go of. It is Mars in your house of education and ideas, beliefs. And so this says, what is it that you've been taught, or what is it that you believe that is really not serving you? I mean, there is, we can, through our educational life, pick up some ideas that are not that beneficial or that have just changed over time. I mean, let alone like science for sure. The amount of science and beliefs about science that have changed in my lifetime is just huge. But it's also the personal beliefs that can change. We can have beliefs about other cultures and other countries and other people in general, other groups and all of that. And those can evolve over time and we can change. And this means letting go of preconceived ideas or ideas that we might have had for a long time so we can embrace something new. Now, when it comes to relationships, you're not doing an aspect between Pluto and Venus or Mars and Venus, and so the energy is a little off. Now, that said, you are doing North Node, Sun, Moon, Mercury in your house of intimacy, and Jupiter is in your house of fun. And so even though I said, don't get lost in the fun, there is still some fun to be had. Now, this means that probably the relationship energy that you're going to be doing is more of a one-night stand or just a physical relationship and not leading to something more long-term. So if you wanted a committed relationship, the timing is off right now and you just want to wait a couple of weeks. But if you were looking for just a temporary happy time, this is the time to go find that person. When it comes to your home life and your family life, here I want to slow down a minute because it is ruled by that Uranus in your 7th house. So we have new opportunities or new people coming in, but also new ideas coming in. And Saturn is in your 4th house. And so that Saturn is going to make that square with Uranus. And so Saturn represents the tradition, the things that have always been, or the structure of the house itself. And then Uranus takes that apart, uses those raw materials to build something brand new. And so this could mean that you are moving, that that your landlord or landlord, or I don't know who else it would be. So your landlord says that they're selling the property, or that you own the house and you feel a desire to move, even though the market is really hot right now and it can be really difficult to find a great place. So there can be that, but it's also the structure of the family could be changing. And that is, maybe kids are moving away, or that relatives are coming closer, and maybe you're all going to live in one house together and be multi-generational or something like that. So we have some big changes happening in this area. These changes probably started in February when we had the first hit and they kind of caught you off guard. Now you're more ready for it so you can handle it. And then we will get one more hit of this before the end of the year when everything does solidify. So this is the time where you're going to see what changes need to be made and be able to take action. So when it comes to your money, you are pulling money in from that Jupiter in Pisces. And so this is where we see the duality of any planet, especially Jupiter, where it can bring you luck and protection and expand your knowledge and expand your money. And it also can make you indolent and want to just spend money and just feel that you're just going to wait and see what happens. And so this is where you want to be proactive. And as you are, you can get some amazing results when it comes to money. And if you just allow, things to unfold, then you get just enough money to survive. And that's not enough for most people. And so any sort of action that you do is going to have some benefits. When it comes to money that comes from passive income sources or a family business or your own business, you have a great house there that is North Node, Sun, Moon, and Mercury, which means that money can come from lots of different places. Now, there's no aspect going on between Jupiter and Mercury, so that accumulation of the money is more difficult. And so that can indicate that you are finding the investments or expanding your business, but you're not yet getting paid, that will come weeks or months later. Maybe you're getting paid in 90 days or something like that. So, but this is the time to find the different things, the avenues or streams of revenue that will come in the future, because even though things aren't lined up right now, this is where the benefits can come. So we have some similar energy when it comes to money derived from career, because again, we're looking at that relationship between Jupiter and Mercury. But this time, the interesting thing is that the ruler of your 11th house is in a money house, and it's retrograde, that Mercury. And so what that means is that there may be some perks on your job that you have passed up, and the universe is giving you a time to look at that again. And maybe it's, discounts or a 401k match or some company stock at a discounted price or something like that. So it's time to look at the perks that you have just working for your company so that you could capitalize on it, because the fact that Mercury's retrograde means that you're needing to go over this again. So even if you set it up already, it's a good idea during Mercury retrograde to go in and check it to make sure that everything is working the way it should. And that's a way that you can gain more income in the future. Now, when it comes to riskier investments, and these are the ones that take a lot of time, energy, or money to make happen, or they're quite different or unusual investments, you are doing that Jupiter, Neptune. They're both in the same sign, but they are not yet talking to each other. Now, in previous videos, I've been very interested to see that once they're in the same sign, whether there's going to be more harmony in this area for you. And so I'm thinking that it's going to feel easier to gain from this area. It'll be interesting to see if those gains do accumulate over this time. Again, just because that Pisces can be a little less interested in the money itself and more interested in the bigger picture of, how the business is growing or how much of the different shares you're accumulating or things like that. So I do feel, I like this energy certainly better than when Jupiter and Neptune were in different signs. So I like this better. They're not going to talk to each other for a while, so I think that that you can see it. It's right there, and it's just going to take a little bit more effort to make it to manifest. But before, you couldn't even see it. So this is an improvement. Okay, Sagittarius natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your area of relationships, partnerships, and anything that you're doing on a collaborative basis. And so the focus is really on other people, and you can become hyper aware of people's opinions, how they are working with you, how they may be blocking you in your life, and also those key relationships in your life, and whether those are moving forward or whether you're seeing some deterioration, or perhaps maybe it is just time to call it quits. The mirror house for this, of course, is the first house, which is your house of self-confidence and your sense of identity. And so you might be changing some aspects of yourself. You know, you might be getting healthy or changing your appearance in some way, but most of the focus is on other people. And so it might be that they're going through changes in their lives, and so that's affecting your life, or you are looking at the relationship itself. Now, it's possible that others are asking you to change your communication style, to change how you interact with them, or the times that you see them, or any of these things. And those may or may not fit in your life. And so this is a time where all of this comes under the microscope for you, and so that you can strengthen those important relationships, or if a relationship has gotten to a point where you two have just grown apart, then it may be time to end the relationship. Now, when we look at Jupiter this time as that point of escape, and remember that all planets have a positive side and a negative side. So the negative side of Jupiter is that in Pisces is that desire to just zone out. And here you have it in your house of family. And so that is that maybe you're backing away from a relationship and coming back to the family itself. And that doesn't sound so negative unless, you know, this is just you not wanting to interact with the world. And so you are basically just staying home or being very insular and not maybe connecting with new people or dealing with people that you've just met. Now, this also could say that you are getting kind of involved in the house itself, and that is that instead of dealing with relationships, you are working on decluttering. Again, it's generally a good thing, except when it becomes out of balance and it's the only thing you're doing. But decluttering, house renovations, house hunting, any of those things where you can become quite obsessed with those things when it's in actuality your relationships you should be dealing with. When we look at that Mars and it's signaling to let go of something, that is coming out of your house of intimacy and resources. And so it may be that you are letting go of an intimate relationship, one that you might have had for a long time, or something that you've had just for a couple of months while Mars has been in Cancer. Now, it also says that a resource may be going away, or perhaps you're eliminating it for some reason. And so this is in that letting go, you will find some new resource to support you. And so perhaps it's a resource that causes you too much stress or takes up too much time or is in some way not as beneficial as something new would be. Now, when it comes to relationships, you know, here we have this kind of mixed message because you have a great relationship house, North Node, Sun, Moon, Mercury, which means that you really can meet new people. And with Venus and Mars still, you know, Mars just barely, but still in your house of intimacy, that means this could be a sexual relationship or a romantic relationship, as well as bringing in those friendships where you could really, you know, speak to somebody about all aspects of your life. Now, that energy, while these are good planets, it's still an eclipse. And so this is that promise that if you do the hard stuff now, things are very good in the future. Now, additionally, we don't see an aspect between Jupiter and Mercury is retrograde. So we do know that some of the timing is off. So again, it's the hard stuff is first, and then you have great energy for relationships going forward. You'll see those unfold over the next few weeks. But for now, it is time for you to do a very frank assessment of the relationships in your life. Now, when it comes to your home life, we already talked about the negative side of that Jupiter. Jupiter, of course, has a positive side too, in that it expands. And in this case, in Pisces, it helps your spirituality, it helps your creativity, especially in the more artistic mediums, you know, like painting or drawing or dance or things like that. And so you have Jupiter there helping you find a place maybe to do your art in the home, maybe finding that family members are starting to accept your creative side, or your spiritual side, or you're bringing spirituality into the home. Maybe you are living a more magical life, or maybe you're bringing your religion into your life on a daily basis. So this is the part that's not the escape. This is the part where Jupiter is actually benefiting you and helping you grow. Now, when it comes to your money, of course, we always go back to that Saturn, which is still traveling through your third house. That's where you're pulling money from. I see so many leaders in business who have the ruler of their second house in the third house because communication is so crucial. And if I didn't mention this last time, myself and another astrologer, Tammy Magaro, and I are doing a set of books, course, podcast. I don't know what it's going to manifest into, but it's all about communication. It's all about Mercury. And so I'm going to be making some announcements on this channel about that in the next few weeks. Now, every period that we talk about this Saturn going through your third house. And so today I want to emphasize the fact that this is also a house of travel. And this says that as you travel, either, through reaching out to people who live in different places, or actually picking yourself up and going to these new places, you can benefit. And so, now that things are opening up, maybe it is time for you to go to a conference, or to go visit customers, or to actually just do some leisure travel where you will get business ideas. So there is some money-making opportunities for when you travel. And if you're not able to travel, but you still have a vehicle, maybe sometimes just getting in the car and getting out on the open road, because then you're getting tons of ideas. You're thinking, and you're allowing the universe to see you. So even something as simple as that can be quite helpful. So when it comes to money from business or money from traditional investments, the moon is making a trine to that Saturn, and so that's fantastic. You do show the accumulation of money this time, so I expect you to be making more money than usual. Venus is there with the Mars. When the Venus is there, you may have a desire to spend some money, and so you might be buying equipment for your business or making additional investments. Additionally, because the Mars is only there for a brief time, there could be some shift in the market which causes you to, sell something or collect the profits on something, and that might be why you're showing that bump up. So just be aware of that, changes in the marketplace could signal a time for you to let go of something. So, but overall, I do expect you to be making more money this time than usual. When it comes to money derived from career, you have a really interesting set of circumstances here. Venus is making an inconjunct to Saturn, which says that you are making more money than usual, but you're doing things that you don't really enjoy. You're having to adjust, or you have to cause your boss to adjust, which still can be uncomfortable, and you have to have a pretty flexible boss to do that. So recognize that you might be assigned tasks that you don't really enjoy, and especially because Mercury is retrograde, perhaps you are getting a task that you thought was off your desk and now it's back and you're having to do it now, but you may not have to do it in the future. Now, you do show that you're making more money, and this could be that you're having to ask for that. And that is that you have to go into your boss and tell them, these are my accomplishments, this is what I'm working on, so that you can get that raise. The thing that I do like the most is that the ruler of your 11th house is in the 8th house, which does say that if you work for a large corporation, there could be some perks that you are not aware of. And so you might want to go to the HR department and see if you can get a 401k match, or that, maybe you can buy stock at a discount, or that there's some other benefits that you might not be aware of. Even if you work for a smaller company, maybe the benefits won't be so monetary. Maybe they will be more tangible goods, but there's still a benefit. Now, when it comes to riskier investments, and by those we mean things that are unconventional, things that would make the traditional investor nervous, or things that you don't yet know much about, so they are new to you, there is no aspect going on between Saturn and Mars, which does not bode well. The Mars is in a money house, but it's only going to be there for a very short period of time, and so something about your riskier investment is changing. And so this says that you need to reacquaint yourself with whatever has changed, whether that is some volatility in the market or some sort of government regulations is affecting what you're doing, or that contracts come through and you find that it's not as beneficial as you thought. You need to maybe step back, take a breath, and see what has changed and what you need to do now to make this a viable investment. Okay, Capricorn natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your house of habits, health, and your kind of daily work life. And so this is having you look at what kind of habits are ruling your life. And those could be habits that you have or habits that are kind of imposed on you by, our world of technology. The idea that, they make more and more compelling devices and content, and they have algorithms to get you to keep scrolling. And so if you are caught up in that, that's where your attention is to say, I don't know if I want to continue to do this. What else could I be doing? How do I break a bad habit? How do I form a good habit? Etc. Now, it's also about your health, and so you might be looking at changing a health routine, getting back into exercise or trying a new exercise, looking at a different way of eating, finding different foods to eat, but also just looking at how you eat. And a little side note, in the description box, there is a link to my Feng Shui for Weight Loss program, and that is about how you eat, how you store food, and where you eat in the house. And so it's a little program that, well, it's not super little, it's quite a few videos, but it's a program to help you lose weight without actually changing what you eat. So back to your chart, when you get the hit in the 6th house, this is about the possibility of underlying fears or unnamed fears disrupting your life. And so that can cause you to want to get into a habit because that is kind of a comforting gesture. And so we also will look at the Jupiter and that negative side of Jupiter as the potential point of escape. And it is sitting in your house of communication. And so that's where you may be mindlessly consuming content just so that you don't have to face something that your brain is saying is scary. Now, again, this could be an unnamed fear, so it may not be something that you can put your finger on. It could just be a general anxiety, which is easier solved through, well, of course, some sort of therapy. There's also tapping and affirmations, and also, though, just a sense of curiosity. Because curiosity really can eliminate fear. If you're just saying, I wonder why I feel this way, because that is starting from a place of strength. And so, but back to Jupiter, Jupiter in Pisces could cause you to have this mindless, watching TV or scrolling or the same conversations over and over. Of course, there's a positive side to Jupiter as well, but each planet has a dark side and a light side. And so this is the part where you just want to watch to make sure you're not doing this. When we look at Mars and what you should be letting go of, it's in a house of relationships. And so it's saying to look at your relationships and see which ones are beneficial and keep those, and let go of relationships that are not beneficial. And those might be those relationships that after you see this person, you're tired or you feel down or you feel scared or something like that. And that just indicates they're on a different path than you are. And so allow them their own journey, let them go, and that is, you don't have to say, I don't want to see you, but you could maybe not return their calls so quickly, or just, let them know that you're busy doing other activities. And that way, they can go do their journey while you do yours. Now, this is also, though, saying, because that Mars is going through your 7th house just for a few more days, that maybe something else in your life is out of balance. So there's an awful lot here that is indicating that we are looking for this sense of, like a work-life balance or work and play balance, or just that you are feeling calmer during the day. Now, when we look at your relationships very specifically, we do have a nice house because Venus is there and Mars, as we said, is going to be there for a few more days. So additionally, the Saturn is making a trine to that moon. And so this does indicate that the timing is working, that you could meet somebody new that could become a great friend or even an intimate relationship. And it does facilitate your ability to let go of negative connections that you might have. So your relationship energy is good for the things you want to do. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from that Mars at 29 Cancer. And so there is a sense of holding on to something. And perhaps that is maybe you are thinking about moving, or someone in the family is, and you're wondering if you should keep the family home. You know, maybe you should buy it from that relative so that you can hold on to it. Perhaps you are deciding whether you want to declutter or keep family heirlooms. Maybe you are trying to pass family heirlooms on to other people in the family, but they also are not so interested in those material objects anymore. So there is some possible changes at home. It's also possible that somebody in the family is moving farther away, and so there is a sense that they are leaving the nest, or at least leaving the neighborhood. And so you may be feeling some sort of loss, or that you're having to let go of someone, not because they won't be in your life, but because, you know, they live clear across the country. When it comes to your money, you have some really interesting energy because, of course, you're pulling money from that Uranus that is sitting in your house of risky investments, which we'll talk about in a second. And Saturn is in your second house, which is the slow growth wealth maker. So right there, of course, that's good. And we've talked about that many times. But this month, we have Saturn lining up for that second square with Uranus. Now, this is something that I talked about in the introduction, so if you haven't heard the introduction yet, you do want to listen to that. But this is about taking the traditional ways that you are handling your money or making money, breaking this down, and then rebuilding it into something else. And so this could be something like that you're used to doing one-on-one consultations, and then, of course, with the pandemic, we all went to Zoom consultations, but now that things are opening up, you're deciding whether to go back to the traditional way of doing things or to move forward, embracing the technology, or at least incorporating technology. And so that's just one example. You know, also you might have been working at home, and now you're deciding whether you're going to do some sort of hybrid model of working at home sometimes and working at the office other times. So this is the type of thing that might be happening. And so what it says is, don't just go back to what it was before, but look at how things can change, how things should change, so that you are doing some sort of new model or new way, because that's what is going to bring in new income sources. When it comes to money that comes from royalties, residuals, affiliate marketing, you know, your own business, or from a family business, or traditional investments, the Sun is making this really wide semi-sextile to Uranus, which is, first of all, the semi-sextile is not that fun. So it says that you're doing things that you don't really enjoy, that are actually kind of irritating, which might be, you know, shifting some investments, or you're doing more paperwork, or, you know, you're dealing with government paperwork or things like that. But because the aspect is wide, it means that there's more of a desire to make money than actually happening. So I think you're making about the same as usual, perhaps slightly less if you're not doing those irritating tasks. And this, of course, will clear up over the next few weeks, but right now that's not the big source of your money, so you just look like you're making about the same as usual. When it comes to your money derived from career, you do not have a strong house right now because we don't have a connection happening between Saturn and Uranus with either Pluto or Mars. And so things are really disconnected, which is interesting because you're doing such a strong house of work. And so that could mean that you are thinking about changing jobs, and so you're still negotiating a salary and not really receiving something yet. It could be, though, that your industry is going going through changes, or that everybody's still figuring out what kind of hybrid model that they want to have, and so you're not sure of where your place is. And so everything kind of leads to, it's not a great time to be asking for a raise. I think that because you do still have that strong money connection with the Saturn-Uranus, I do think that that you're going to be making as much as you were before. I think that it's just more challenging to make additional money because every time you ask for something, it feels like people are pouring more responsibilities on you or saying that you have to work more hours, which, you know, when it boils all down to it, you're not actually then making more per hour if you're having to do so much more things. So you do want to wait until this energy clears a little bit, and it will. When it comes to risky investments, and these are things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, you know, like selling a company or buying a franchise or doing something that is very unconventional, like an NFT or something like that, Venus is making a sextile to Uranus, which is a very nice aspect. So you do have some opportunities now that Venus is in the 7th house. So it says, go reach out and find somebody who knows how to do these things and who is going to generously tell you, you know, the ins and outs, and, you know, how to get your business listed, or, you know, what's their experience in having this type of franchise, or, you know, and this is more like a one-on-one connection. So while you can watch videos and things like that, you know, take courses and tutorials, this more says find somebody with actual experience and see if you can get some sort of meeting with them. And that's going to bring you some great opportunity. Remember, this is a sextile, and it says you have to take some action and then the benefits come. So, but I do like the fact that it is making a sextile, so you have the opportunity to make more money than usual. Okay, Aquarius natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your 5th house, and that is about finally having some fun. It is that you are not going to tolerate just drudgery in your life anymore. There's also this possible realization that you're having that you're playing things too small, that you could be leading a bigger life, taking more chances, doing things that you really want to do. And so this could mean that you are truly focused on what you're creating out in the world, or that you want to take bigger risks when it comes to business or love, or, you know, that you want to sell all your possessions and get a van and start van life or something like that. So there's a true desire here to recreate yourself, or to create a whole new world for yourself, and so, or maybe a whole new world. And so there's a great deal of focus right now on, you know, what you have been doing, and is it fun, is it enjoyable, and are you ready now to go out and truly do things that are fulfilling. Now, as we've been talking about, you know, the planets have two sides, and so we're looking at the dark side first of Jupiter, and that is where a person might escape to because the idea of dealing with the eclipse energy is just too much. And so this Jupiter is in your house of money. And so where you might escape, or where you might say, you know, it's just going to be too hard, is either that you don't have the money to go do these things. You know, you think of, you know, that you want to travel the world, or you want to pause your job so that you can write a screenplay, or that you want to ask that attractive person out, and you say to yourself, I don't have the resources, I don't have the money to do this thing. And so then you are escaping through that, or you are escaping through the idea of spending money. And so that is that you want to be an artist, and so you spend all of your money, you know, getting art supplies and things like that without actually doing the creation of the art. So now Jupiter has a positive side, and we'll be talking about that in a few minutes, because it really could give you a boost of income, so stay tuned. When we look at Mars at 29 degrees of Cancer and what you need to be letting go of, or at least consider, it is going through your house of habits, routines, health issues, and work. And by work, we mean the day-to-day activities of work. And so you need to let go of something in this area. And so certainly letting go of bad habits is really good. I found that book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, extremely helpful. I will find that link and put it in the description box. But you know, even go through the summaries online if you don't want to go through the whole book. But I think that it is a really good way to change a habit. Now, additionally, of course, this is your opportunity to let go of bad eating habits, or to, you know, let go of a sedentary lifestyle and things like that. And then when it comes to work, it is also, you know, what work is really fulfilling for you, and what is something that you're just trying to get by, but maybe you haven't felt like there's a way out. And that's where we go back to the eclipse that says, you know, you could have a whole new world here. So, you know, there's some parts of you here that has to trust that you are powerful enough to create something new. And so if something is really terrible, you may be looking at letting go of that thing, or at least taking the steps to replace it with something else. That's what the eclipse is for, to take what is not working and to replace it with something better. When it comes to relationships, you are doing an aspect. It's a semi-sextile between the Sun and Uranus, which is okay. You know, Mars is going to go into that house, and I do think that you're going to get a lot of interest, especially if you're wanting to date during this period. But the semi-sextile says that there's something somewhat irritating about all this, which could mean that the people who are interested in you aren't necessarily your type, or that you are quite interested in someone, but they're already engaged in a relationship or something like that. Now, and this is a wide semi-sextile, and so that indicates that there's more of a desire to make it happen than the ability to make it happen. And so you may have to wait for this timing to be better. But I do think that, you know, charisma-wise and your personal power is increasing. And so there is the ability to start to attract to you. And so if you've been thinking about doing an online profile or something like that, this is the time to, you know, start getting the pictures together, start writing your profile and things like that. So because there is some aspect here, it's just not quite as good as I would have liked. Now, when it comes to your home life, you're pulling energy from that Venus in the 6th house, which says that, you know, you might be making someone very happy by decluttering or by changing your diet. You might be coming together as a family to work on a project together, maybe to start a family business or something like that. So you have some very positive energy around home and family, and it is because you are now meeting together to do some sort of activity or project together. Now, when it comes to your money, as I hinted about before, Jupiter is in your 2nd house along with the Neptune, which rules that house. Jupiter co-rules it. So now you have both of these planets in there. And so you have more potential for making money than you have had in a long time. Now, Jupiter's only going to be there for a short period of time. It's going to back out back into your 1st house. But then by the end of the year, it's going to be back into your 2nd house for a whole year. And so that is really going to give you a boost. Now, the danger, of course, is to coast through this, because if you will actually start with the Jupiter, which says, you know, do the spiritual things, do the meditation, the prayer, the magic to bring in the money, but also do the Jupiter part, which is the learning about things, you know, how to handle money. You know, does the jar system work? Does the cash system work? You know, is the system that you're using working? And so looking at what you can learn and then adding in the spiritual component is the way for you to start to make a lot more money. Now, when it comes to your income from investments or your business, or, you know, your network marketing business or your affiliate programs or things like that, Mercury is making a square to that Neptune. So that is really good news. And the fact that Mercury is retrograde is not a problem. That is actually going to bring you more opportunities, because as you get one customer, you get two, or, you know, a customer or, you know, some source of income that has happened in the past but may not have happened recently, now comes it back and starts happening again. So you do have some real money opportunities this time. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, now you are looking at the relationship between Jupiter and Neptune, and they are now in the same sign and in a money house. So I think this is very promising for you. This means you can get a better job, you can get a raise, you can renegotiate your commission schedule, you could get bonuses and things like that. So your luck is very strong. Now, because these two are not making an aspect, I do think that you do have to do some sort of activity. You can't just wait for it to happen. You are going to have to maybe say something to somebody, or at least, do the prayer or meditation to make this happen. Now, when it comes to riskier investments, and these are the ones that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, something that you might have been working on for a very long time, like building your reputation on social media or building a video course or something like that, you do have a great house. Now, it of course encompasses that eclipse, so we do have some volatility, but we have the Mercury, as we mentioned before, making a square to the Neptune, which is fantastic. So I think that there is so many possibilities for you right now that if you've been thinking about this, it is time to take some sort of step forward. Now, as you do, remember, because Mercury is retrograde, you might be looking over things again now with fresh eyes and finding that you have to make some changes in a contract or maybe make some adjustments here or there. But it does say if you take action, there could be some big possibilities for you this time. Okay, Pisces natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your 4th house of home and family, and so this is the area where we could see some changes. This causes a person to be very focused on security, the sense of, whether family's being supportive or not, but also whether you're going to stay in this home or whether you're going to move, and whether that move is something where you're moving from one similar place to another, or if you're making a very big change. Now, as we had talked about before, eclipses bring the change that the universe is suggesting for you, and if you move towards this change, things go much easier. Now, I know that moving is very challenging, but sometimes it really can turn out much, much better for you, especially if you're looking at, decluttering, how can you release stuff, and maybe you will be moving closer to family, or even moving in to have a multi-generational household, or perhaps you're giving yourself some distance from family, and that's going to be the beneficial thing. So there's a lot going on here, and about a week before the eclipse, and certainly during the week after, you're getting the messages about what this is going to be. Now, because the mirror house is your house of career, it is possible that there is something going on with your career, and that is facilitating this move. And so perhaps it is a job opportunity which is going to be so far that you need to move your residence, or that you have now this work at home opportunity and you can live anywhere. And so now you want to live in the mountains or by a lake or some place that's really beautiful, and you don't have to live in the city anymore. Now, of course, a move takes a lot of time, and so as with all eclipses, the energy unfolds over a period of time. That can be weeks or months. Some say it will go on for 6 months to a year. And so this is more about making the decision or recognizing that you're getting the information that there is some changes at home, like the landlord saying that they're going to sell the place, or if you're living in a place and there's suddenly construction around you and they're building some sort of commercial stuff, or they're going to build a freeway through your neighborhood, or things like that. Now, we've been talking about Jupiter and in Pisces and that darker side of it as a point of escape. And it's interesting because Jupiter is in the sign of Pisces, and so there's always a little bit of energy around Pisces where you are kind of have one foot in this world and one foot in, the Akashic fields, into the psychic realm or into the universe. So you're more able to go back and forth between those two. And so what this Jupiter can be as a point of escape, the non-positive side of this Jupiter, is escaping out of your body and just being in the spiritual, not paying attention to the things that are going on that just need need you to do something physically. And so that's basically being not grounded. And so if you find that, you're not eating, or maybe you're eating way too much, trying to ground yourself, or that you are doing things that are more mind altering as an escape, that's the darker side of this Jupiter. And that is because you're having trouble looking at the home and family stuff that's going on. And, again, it's understandable when there are big changes like this happening. But the escaping into the Jupiter is not that great. Of course, there is a positive side to this Jupiter, and that is about expanding your knowledge and expanding your psychic ability. And now that Jupiter's in your sign, you do have that capability. And so it's almost like you can go explore the other realms, but you need to be tethered here because you still have a body. So in all the things that are happening, remember to drink water, eat healthy, get enough sleep, and do what you can to take care of yourself, as opposed to just escaping into something where you're not here at all. When we look at the Mars at 29 Cancer and what we're needing to let go of for you, it is in that 5th house of indulgences and just pleasure seeking and risk taking and things like that. And so there is some energy here of, again, getting to the practical side, letting go of maybe some of the fun things that you have been doing or really want to indulge in, and putting those aside while you get the work done. And so Mars will move into that 6th house of routines and taking care of health and doing things like laundry and packing and sorting stuff and organizing and things like that. So that's the thing that we show you letting go of. When it comes to relationships, you have a really good aspect as Mercury is making a square to that Neptune. Now Mercury is retrograde, and this could mean that it's somebody from the past coming back. And of course, that's always risky because, they may say they've changed, but who knows? It's really actually challenging sometimes for some people to change. And so they may make some promises and all that. But this can indicate that someone from the past is coming back. Now, it also could be that someone who is very similar to a person from your past is coming into your life. And so they don't have necessarily the difficulties that past relationship had. They'll bring some new challenges because all relationships bring some challenges, but they'll also bring some new opportunities for love and connection. We spoke a lot about your home life already. It is pulling energy from that Mercury retrograde, which to me indicates that you know that this is coming. You have had signs about this, possibly as far back as the previous retrograde. And so there is this sort of this is like the second notice of this coming. And so then it's not quite the shock that it might be otherwise. Now, the Mercury also might mean that there's some paperwork that you need to handle or communication you need to do, that you need to tell somebody or negotiate something with somebody or to fill out some forms or things like that. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mars that is just about to change signs. So something about how you deal with your money is changing. And maybe you are going from that 5th house, which is so magnanimous and just wants to buy everybody around or gifts for everybody, into a far more practical, far more precise, kind of spreadsheet sort of house where you are keeping track of your money, you're more aware of what your spending is, and that you are actually dividing things up for the present and the future so that you are not just spending everything and coming to the end of the month with nothing. So I think that this energy is quite good. You're starting out, though, with the old energy because that's the Mars at 29. And so it may take a little bit for you to feel that new energy of where you are being more practical with your money. But as you do, that's going to bring more money in general because it's an earth house that it's going into, and an earth house can generate more money. When it comes to money that is from traditional investments or royalties, residuals, your own business, family business, Venus isn't making an aspect with Mars right now, and so we see you making about the same as usual. That Venus is in your house of riskier investments, and so your attention may be on some other things that you are maybe not paying enough attention to your more traditional or safer investments, or you're more interested in a creative side of a business, whereas your bread and butter part of your business is getting a little bit neglected. And so that's all going to be solved as this Mars moves into that very practical house, because, you know, that Mars will want to take care of business. So, but I see you making about the same as usual, but not much more. When it comes to money derived from career, Saturn is not making an aspect with Mars, and Mars is changing signs. And so there is something changing about your business that is causing it to be difficult for you to ask for more money or even possibly more hours. Now, what you can do with this Mars shift is to make your business or whatever you do more efficient. And so perhaps that will reduce the number of hours that you're working, or it will certainly look good when you are listing all your things for your supervisor when this aspect does line up. But in the meantime, what it does say is that there is something changing, and that it doesn't necessarily mean that you are changing jobs. I think that that's a possibility, though the energy looks like you would be going back to a job you've had before. So it's possible that a supervisor you knew before is trying to get you back to an old company, or that, you know, maybe a coworker or somebody like that says, you know, hey, come back to work for us. But I think in general, this means that while your company is going through whatever transition it's going through, it's challenging for you to make more money than usual. Now, when it comes to riskier investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, these are the things that like regular people would call gambling, you know, so anything like that. And that would include things like online poker or something like that. You're doing Venus and Mars in that house, and you're pulling energy from the moon, which is being eclipsed. And so you do have some volatile energy. That Venus loves to spend money. That Mars is changing signs, which could mean that the rules are changing or something important is changing that you need to investigate. And the fact that the moon is there, but in a volatile situation, all adds up to me saying be careful, because this is not lined up in a way that is beneficial for you. So this could mean that a contract is convoluted, or that you have some family obligations that either need that cash, or the family person, the member of your family, is trying to pull you into something that you can see is too volatile or is going to change, or the regulations about it are going to change, or things like that. So everything here says to be cautious. And because the Venus is there, there is a desire to throw some money at it. Just if you're going to do that, make it a very small amount just to test the waters. I think it would be better, though, to actually, work on the spreadsheets or things like that to see the upside and the downside, and to see if there's any way you can mitigate the risk.